This is Dr. Monica. I am the M4 Men with a Message on a Mission, Creating a Movement. And I am here with our speaker, Drew Deraney. How are you today, Drew?
Oh, I'm well, Dr. Monica. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much for uh, applying to be a speaker. And I just want to just talk about a few things with you so that our viewers get an opportunity to hear a little bit about you, know a little bit about you, and register for this summit. One of the things as I was listening to you speak, I want to say that if we don't want people to hurt, then let them be who they are. Let them be who they are.
Mhm.
Drew talked a lot about conforming. We are trying to be, or we are being what other people tell us to be, what society has told us to be, what's been passed down to us generationally and religiously, and just all these things to the point that we are not authentic. It truly takes pain, suffering for us to reach authenticity. I'm speaking for myself, and I'm saying that my life changing pain was in 2016. That's when the pandemic was occurring, COVID was happening, all these things. But the world shifted in 2016 and shook my world. And so you were talking about 2015 and 2018. But I think that the only way to get to true authenticity is by suffering and going through pain. What are your thoughts about that, Drew?
If you asked me that 7 years ago, I'd say you're crazy.
Yes.
Yeah, we fall into a complacency mindset when everything works out for us. And I honestly will say I don't regret anything that happened to me, because if I take away 3 seconds of my past, I'm not sitting with you right now. So I am going to agree with you that we don't have the wherewithal as human beings to notice stuff that's under the surface. It does take, and I said faith shaking moments above the surface to jar us into some type of reality, because we're living an illusion if we're living somebody else's reality. And yeah, I agree with you 100%. I mean, I used to be authentic, and somehow I lost myself. And it took those four things in a 9-month span to kind of like hit me upside the head and say, Drew, hey, Drew, wake up. And thank God I woke up, because, I agree with you. This world is craving authenticity. And I'm with you 100%.
One of the things you just said is you said, "Thank God I woke up." I'm gonna touch on that because my major wound came from the church and
Yeah.
growing in the church, and the issue with a family member in the church that literally divided me, cut me to my core, to the point that my family doesn't even speak to me or deal with me. I'm 98% estranged from my family
My goodness.
because of church crap that's still going on.
Yeah.
And I'm grateful to God that He showed me a peace that surpasses all understanding. And if I didn't go through those things, I wouldn't be here conducting this summit. I wouldn't have the passion that I have. So, I grew up in religion. I don't go to church anymore. I do believe in God. And so there's a passage that says, that He takes what was meant for good, for evil, to turn it into good. I believe that. I don't believe that He allowed or created any of these negative or bad situations, which a lot of Christianity says God allows, because that's not loving. A loving person wouldn't allow anything. If your earthly father wouldn't allow it, then why would a heavenly father? So that doesn't work for me at all, at all. So, but because I went through those things, now say, okay, Dr. Monica, let me show you your power, your strength to use this to help others. And so that became my purpose. But without my pain,
Yeah.
It would not have been purpose. So you know
Mhm.
what? I have to literally thank everybody who hurt me. Literally.
Yeah, right. Yep. No, I'm with you. You know, we have to send a thank you note to all those people. And it's interesting, and I'm sorry that happened to you
Yes.
because it shouldn't happen to anybody. And my view, I'm a very religious person. God, and when I say God, God's right for me. When I talk to other people, I talk about whatever your higher power is, because we're not alone and we can't do it alone.
Correct.
So whatever that higher power is, the
Yes.
universe, God, whatever, embrace a higher power. Now, secondly, where I see a big difference is, see, when I talk about the four walls of a church, the parishioners or the people who are in the parish inside those four walls of a church are a microcosm of society as a whole. Okay,
Yes. Yes.
wherever you are in society, you're going to find pockets of people who don't live by their words, right? Their
Yes.
actions. So that's how I see organized religion. That that's why you can talk to one person who is in four walls of a church and has a wonderful experience versus one. It could be the same religion, same state, two towns away. It's
Yes.
human beings who make the difference. And so the way I see it is God to me is anywhere. He's on the corner of the street outside. He's sitting up with the bird and the tree up there. So yeah, when I went through those four things, I did shun all my support systems, including the church, because I had the blame game going on. I have yet to go back on a regular basis to the church, not because of what I consider church hurt, but what I consider about human hurt. Because
Mhm.
there's a lot of politics going on in my church. They just pushed out the priest because some of them didn't like. It was only a nucleus, like six people, who
Yes.
pushed him out. They say we have a new, and that's not why I go to church. I go to say, hey, stop asking me to do stuff. I want to kneel. I want to pray. Well, now I can kneel and pray at the foot of my bed. So there's a difference to me between organized religion and the God you pray to. Does
Absolutely.
that make sense?
I totally agree with you. And I had to go through my pain to learn that. I had to learn to separate God from church or
Right.
organized
Mhm.
religion.
Right.
And I found him more who I perceived to be God outside of
Mhm.
the four walls than
Yes.
inside of the four walls. And so
Absolutely.
I'm grateful for that because I literally walked around conforming and fitting in and doing what I
Mhm.
was taught. Um, but let's touch on. I see a lot of similarities in your stories and
Yeah.
in mine. And
Mhm.
you were talking about job loss, and you
Right.
went through job loss, this
Mhm.
issue with his son's suicidal ideation, divorce,
Mhm.
just all of this in a 9-month span.
Right.
But you were talking about the workplace, and I want to touch on the
Yeah.
workplace right now.
Yeah.
And here's the reason why: there's so many people who are losing their jobs,
Mhm.
who other people are taking their jobs, especially those of us who are 50 and older.
Yeah.
They're replacing us.
Mhm.
And I saw something, I think someone posted on Facebook about, being true and speaking your truth and
Right.
being authentic and
Mhm.
being afraid to do that because you're afraid of getting fired.
Yeah.
So, the workplace doesn't embrace authenticity. And one of my
Mm-mm.
passions and purpose is in my consulting, is to share how we can embrace authenticity in the workplace. But we have to be
Mm.
authentic, be
Yeah.
ourselves first. So touch on that a
Yeah.
little bit.
Yeah. I strive to be a positive person in any aspect and look for silver linings.
Yes.
I can certainly speak for the healthcare sector that system's broken,
Mhm.
and I'm going to throw this out there because I've said it publicly on everywhere I've spoken that I consider there to be three evil entities in this country. That whatever industry these three evil entities enter into, they break it, and that's the federal government, it's the insurance companies, and it's big pharmaceutical companies.
Yes. Yes.
All three will do not benefit if we heal.
Yes. Yes.
And I'm very outspoken about that because I was there when the government started coming into healthcare and created managed care and taking doctors away from the bedside, and I've seen the difference in both the emotional care, bedside manner, and clinical care. So with that being said, I think until those three evil entities step out and allow the authentic human beings who work at those places, because they are all good human beings, they just have to follow these laws and rules that they're told to follow. And when you have three evil entities telling you what to do, and then you have your heart telling you to do something different, I followed my heart and I got fired from 2 hospitals. That was just the second one. I didn't tell you about the first one because Drew does what Drew does for the benefit of the patient, and I do that now too. Thankfully, I'm a solopreneur and I answer to myself.
Right, correct. I can totally relate, and it's not exclusive to the healthcare industry.
Yeah.
From the education perspective, I was in higher education. I,
Mhm.
teach,
Mhm.
professor, been a dean,
Yeah.
and it's the same corruption there
Yeah.
because, like you say, when the government gets involved,
Mhm.
you have to specifically. I've worked for several of the major universities that were shut
Mhm.
down by the government
Oh, wow.
for
Yeah.
the illegal activities and the
Mhm.
deception. Well, part of the deception is when the government makes regulations and rules that
Mhm.
the institution cannot uphold anyway, such
Yeah.
as, okay, we're going through a recession, but you are requiring the university to have a 90% job placement rate. Really?
Mm. Yeah.
And if
Well,
they
yeah.
can't, then they're going to lose their funding. So,
Mhm.
what's going to happen is these entities are going to create ways to still exist. So
Of course.
one university I work for actually would contract with different corporations and
Mhm.
ask them to hire these students after they graduate for just say 90 days and they would pay their salary. Well, of course, what company wouldn't want a free
Mhm.
employee? After 90
Absolutely.
days, they get
Yep.
rid of the student only because to fulfill the government's requirement. So
Yep.
I totally agree with you, for that,
Uh-huh.
stating that. And so
Yeah.
it's sad that it take us to get to age 50 for us to
I know.
come.
I tell people that life is, well, I don't know if I'm allowed to say, a bass backwards instead of
Yes,
ass backwards, because
correct.
if we could start having kids and get married and do all that stuff at our age right now, we'd be
Yes,
much better parents, much better. But but it doesn't work that way.
correct.
And
Well,
and
you
yeah.
know what? We can have, guess what? Here's the solution.
Mm.
Parents be grow first of all, parents allow your children to be themselves. That's
Mhm.
first and foremost.
Mhm.
Second of all, let them find themselves. You guide them and then
Right.
let them live because
Yeah.
once they and not conform to what you're passing on to them, because now they got to go through this life with these hurts and reach
Yep.
50
Yeah.
when they
Well,
could have learned longer
Well,
sooner.
it's perpetuated because the parents that are doing that haven't
Yes,
healed from their childhood
yes.
trauma. And so what they're trying to heal themselves by having a clone as their kid and
Mhm.
follow. But you're right, we're all unique. And I think though there's something in this country we've got to change because I was speaking to somebody who's from a European country, and she told me that in those countries, like the divorce rate is a lot lower
Yes,
because they're allowed, when you have a new relationship, you're just starting to date somebody, the four major topics you talk about before you get close are money, sex, politics, and religion.
yes.
Then she moved to the States and she's doing all this networking and she's talking about money, sex, politics, and religion. And she's told you can't talk about that stuff. Those are your four taboo topics. She's like, what? So, what does that tell you? Yeah, we have a high divorce rate, a high suicide rate, and we're not allowed to talk publicly or even personally about those four topics. So, I think that
Yes,
what's got to happen is we need to those are four topics that have to be discussed when you're starting any kind of personal relationship because you don't want to be surprised mid-marriage if someone's stealing your money,
correct.
and or whatever else. You know what I'm talking about? It's like
Yes,
nothing should be taboo. Tear down the labels. Let us be human.
yes,
And don't judge. I'm tired of it.
yes.
And that's kind of why I'm doing what I'm doing. I'm tired of it,
Correct.
you know?
And one of the things I want to say, my slogan is silence kills, speaking heals.
I
And it
love it.
is so important to
Mhm.
talk.
Mhm.
Tell your story, tell
Yeah.
it, whatever you're going through. Stop being embarrassed by it because
Yeah.
what you are enduring and living, somebody else has. You'll never know it until you start speaking. And,
Yep.
I wrote a book too. It's called Wounds of Wisdom.
Oh.
And one of the things that a very best friend, close friend told me, oh,
Mhm.
stop talking about it so much. Stop talking about it. Oh, you don't tell your business. Pray about it. Well, here's the problem with that. I'm holding in all that toxicity because I can't release it.
Mhm.
And
Mhm.
literally, like I said, 2016 was when I really started getting on social media.
Right.
Social media is where I connected with people, where
Mm.
people embraced me, where people
Mhm.
shared their stories.
Mhm.
And so the negativity people talk about on social media, it's been the opposite for me. The
Mm.
positivity, because people have stated, you have no idea how your message helps me.
Mhm.
And
Mhm.
because of that, I do what I do. I
Yeah.
speak my truth. I'm not concerned about nobody likes me. I'm not concerned what people think
Mm-mm.
about my message, because it's
Yeah.
truth, it's reality. It's what so
It
many
is.
people are living. If it was
Yep.
a lie,
Yep.
that's
Yep.
something different. But it
Yep.
can't be negated and it can't
No.
be debated.
No, no one can take that away from you. Basically, I think the most important thing is our wisdom, and we get the wisdom from experience, right?
Yes.
Knowledge, we knowledge can help us take our cause to a next level by giving us tools and resources. But wisdom is what's so impactful. And if we keep that inside of us, there are people out there who need to hear it.
Yes. Yes.
Because I thought I was an island all by myself. I'm sure you were too.
Yes.
And when we think
Absolutely.
we're alone,
Mhm.
how can we're in our own head? How are we going to help
Yes.
ourselves if we're in our own head, right? So
Correct.
yeah, yeah.
Correct. So I just want to invite anyone who's listening to this, especially young adults. You have to listen to the wisdom of older adults. We've lived it, we've gone through it. There's nothing new under the sun, just different circumstances. But don't be so, I just have to be myself, or need to be like everybody else, that you can't stop and think for yourself, because you're going to walk down into situations that you will wish you never have gone through. Many people have a low self identity because
Mhm,
they've conformed for so long. So
mhm,
I invite and encourage everyone of every age to attend. On this
mhm,
platform, we have individuals who are under 20 speaking their truths. And I'm so proud of them, those men who are speaking their truths under 20, because they're going to get it a little sooner than we
mhm,
got it. And then we have those over 60. So I share that to say the diversity of the men on this panel, from age over under 20 to over 60, the difference in race, nationality, beliefs, we all suffer, and there's no need to suffer in silence. So I invite you to attend this summit by going over to drmonicajackson.com/M4 Summit. And Drew, I thank you so much for sharing, being willing to share your message. Any parting words before we sign off?
I just, I strongly suggest choose to write your own story instead of letting others write it for you.
I'm going to stop the recording.